I never imagined that my life could implode in a single afternoon, and yet here I was, standing in the marble hall of a high-rise penthouse, champagne flute trembling in my hand, as if the liquid inside could steady me against the storm of my memories. The engagement party was in full swing around me. Laughter, clinking glasses, casual flirtations that now felt like a cruel joke. But the real joke, the one that had been hiding behind my polite smile, was that he had returned. Dante, my alpha, the one who had burned every fragile trust one had once clung to, leaving scars I pretended to have outgrown. And now he was there, leaning casually against the bar like he owned not just the room, but the entire city skyline. His hair, black as midnight, was still messy in that deliberately charming way he always had, and his blue eyes, God, those eyes cut straight through the layers of armor I had built over the past 3 years. I felt my Omega instincts flare, a deep thrum in my chest, betraying every rational thought I tried to maintain. I wanted to run. I wanted to shout. I wanted to throw the glass at him and then immediately regret it, curling into myself in a corner where no one could see me. Instead, I froze. "You're really here?" I said, my voice quieter than I intended. Dante's lips curved into that infuriating half-smile that had once made my knees weak. "I never really left, did I?" he murmured, voice low enough for only me to hear, though the world seemed to shrink around him. "I just needed you to see me differently before I came back." I wanted to slap him. I wanted to tell him to leave before I lost control. Instead, my hands curled around the flute like it was a lifeline. Memories surged unbidden. Our first winter together, snow clinging to our coats as we laughed until our lungs burned. The way his fingers had traced patterns over my skin that left marks only he could ever make. The betrayal, sharp and unforgettable. The night he had walked out without warning, without explanation, leaving me broken in a world that suddenly felt too cold to breathe. "Dante, don't," I whispered, though the word carried the weight of every unshed tear, every sleepless night I had spent trying to forget him. But he stepped closer anyway, each movement deliberate, magnetic, irresistible. "I don't want to hurt you again. I need to make things right. If you'll let me." The room blurred. Voices, laughter. The faint sound of a jazz quartet all faded into a background hum. My heart raced, instincts screaming in confusion. Alpha warning me, Omega longing for him. The dichotomy twisted me inside out. I wanted to hate him. I had to. And yet I couldn't look away. "You don't get to just show up after 3 years and expect things to be okay," I said, my voice shaking. "You don't get to undo the past." He nodded, almost apologetically. I know I can't. But I can try to face it with you, if you let me." Every word was laced with that dangerous intensity that had once made me melt into him without thought. My body betrayed me, leaning forward despite my mind screaming retreat. I had rehearsed this confrontation 1,000 times in my head, each scenario ending with me turning my back on him. Yet here, under the chandelier's golden glow, I found myself captivated, remembering everything I had once loved and everything I had sworn I'd never feel again. The tension was palpable, a living thing between us. My Omega scent, faint but potent, must have reached him, because I could see his jaw tighten subtly. His presence alone made the world hotter, more urgent. I had never felt such a pull from someone who had been both my sanctuary and my greatest torment. I don't know if I can do this," I admitted almost inaudibly. "You don't have to decide now," he said, reaching out. His hand hovered inches from mine, a silent question hanging in the space between us. "Just let me be here. Let me try." The crowd was oblivious, absorbed in small talk and laughter that now sounded grating, almost painful. I should have turned away. I should have walked out into the night air and never looked back. But something in Mesamething unhealed, something still tethered to him, made my fingers twitch toward his. The temptation was dizzying, dangerous, undeniable. "You betrayed me," I said, finally, the words tumbling out jagged and sharp. "You left when I trusted you with everything. You shattered me, Dante." "I know," he said simply. No excuses. No lies. Only the truth in those storm-blue eyes. And I will spend however long it takes proving that I never want to hurt you again. I can't erase the past, but I can be here now. If you'll let me. The honesty, the raw need in his voice, pulled at something deep inside me. Part of me wanted to resist, to punish him, to cling to the hurt because it felt safe. But another part, the part that had once loved him with everything, wanted to collapse into his arms, to forget the world, to feel his heartbeat against mine and believe, just for a moment, that maybe some wounds could heal. My vision blurred as I nodded, almost imperceptibly. Just stay, I whispered. Stay, and don't make promises you can't keep. He smiled, that slow, infuriating smile, and finally closed the distance. His hand brushed mine, a tentative electric touch that sent shivers through me. It was intimate yet careful, as if he knew exactly how fragile I was, how easily I could shatter or succumb. The world narrowed to just us, a fragile bubble of tension, longing, and forbidden closeness amid the glittering chaos of the engagement party. You have no idea how long I've waited for this, he murmured against my ear, his voice low, intimate. To have a chance to make things right, to have you back in my arms. I swallowed hard, every instinct screaming at me to flee. Yet another part of meth part that still remembered warmth, laughter, and love wanted nothing more than to let him in. The pull between us was undeniable, primal, and terrifying. You can't just walk back into my life and expect me to forget, I said, but my voice softened, betraying the longing I fought to suppress. I'm not asking you to forget, he said, his hand now brushing the back of mine, fingers grazing lightly, teasingly, a silent promise of what could be. I just want a chance to prove that I'm still yours, if you'll let me. And just like that, the past surged forward, not as pain alone, but as possibility, a dangerous, intoxicating possibility that neither of us could deny. The tension between us was suffocating, thick enough to taste. Even in the glittering hall, with guests laughing and champagne flowing, it felt as though the world had narrowed to just Dante and me. Every movement he made, every glance, every subtle brush of his fingers against mine, was a silent conversation, an apology, a confession, a temptation. I can't believe I'm doing this, I whispered, more to myself than to him. My omega instincts surged, a confusing blend of fear and desire that left me vulnerable and electric. After everything. Why now? Because I finally realized, Dante said softly, his hand cupping mine, heat radiating from his skin. I can't stay away any longer. Not when you mean this much to me. Not when I know I've lost time I'll never get back. His words were a balm and a blade, reopening old wounds even as they offered a chance for healing. I felt my knees weaken slightly, but I forced myself to stay upright, to meet his gaze. That look, the stormy mix of guilt, longing, and hope, was impossible to resist. You've hurt me so deeply, Dante, I murmured, my voice trembling. 3 years, and I've barely managed to trust anyone again. I know, he said, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming yet comforting. And I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want a chance to rebuild, to show you that what I feel now is stronger than my mistakes. The pull was undeniable. The magnetic energy between Alpha and Omega, the mix of dominance, protection, and instinctual attraction, was alive and dangerous. I felt my body respond before my mind could intervene, my heart thudding in a rhythm that matched his own. I don't know if I can, I confessed, my voice breaking. It's too much. Then let me stay with you anyway, he said, leaning in closer, his breath warm against my ear. Even if it's just here for now. I don't need anything more than to be near you. And I realized, in that moment, that proximity alone was what I had craved. That small, intimate connection, the brush of his hand, the heat of his body near mine, was enough to ignite the embers I'd thought long extinguished. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, I allowed my fingers to interlace with his. A shiver ran up my spine, a mix of fear, desire, and something more profound, hope. The night stretched on, a delicate dance of closeness and restraint. Dante never pushed, never forced, only offered himself as a safe harbor for a storm I didn't know if I could navigate. The guests drifted around us, oblivious, while the two of us stood in a bubble of tension and longing, our breaths mingling in the charged air. "Do you remember our first winter?" Dante asked suddenly, his voice low, almost reverent. I smiled faintly despite myself. "I do. Snow everywhere, your terrible scarf choices, and you trying to teach me to ice skate." He laughed softly, the sound sending warmth through my chest. "And you fell every 5 minutes." I chuckled, a genuine sound I hadn't made in months. "I fell because you distracted me." His hand tightened around mine. "And now? Are you falling again?" The words were teasing, but the undertone was serious. I couldn't meet his eyes, because in them I saw all the love, all the regret, all the desire I had tried to bury. Instead, I let my head tilt slightly, leaning just a fraction closer. Maybe I am." Dante's smile softened, his blue eyes glimmering. He lowered his head, just enough to brush a kiss against my temply gentle, intimate acknowledgement of everything between us. My omega instincts flared, a deep, resonant ache that sought connection, warmth, and reassurance. "Stay close," he whispered. "Let me protect you. Let me be yours again." The words shattered whatever walls I had left. Slowly, hesitantly, I leaned into him, our bodies aligned, his chest pressing against mine, his hands warm and grounding. For a moment, the chaos of the engagement, the city skyline, even the memories of betrayal faded. All that mattered was the here and now, the feel of him near, the beat of his heart in sync with mine, the possibility of healing. "Dante, I'm scared," I admitted, my voice a whisper carried on the night air. "Scared of getting hurt again." "I won't hurt you," he vowed, his lips brushing the top of my head, his fingers tightening around mine. "I promise. I'll spend every day proving it to you." The intensity of our connection was almost unbearable, the magnetic energy between alpha and omega pulsing, alive. I could feel his desire for not just physical but emotional, protective, consuming. And as much as my omega instincts wanted to recoil, my heart, my body, my very soul leaned toward him. We stood like that for what felt like hours, lost in the quiet intimacy amid the clamor of the engagement party. Every touch, every glance, every shared breath was a confession and a reassurance. For the first time in years, I felt seen, desired, and loved in a way that transcended mistakes and betrayal. Finally, Dante pulled back just enough to look into my eyes, the intensity of his gaze making my breath hitch. "Will you let me stay in your life? Fully? Not as someone from your past, but as someone who wants to be your future." The words, so simple yet profound, carried the weight of everything we had lost and everything we could still have. I swallowed hard, feeling the tears that had long threatened to spill finally gather. Slowly, with trembling hands, I cupped his face. "Yes," I whispered. "I'll let you. But you have to promise. No more running. No more lies. Only us." Dante's smile was radiant, a light that could have illuminated the darkest corners of my world. "I promise. Only us. Always." And then, in the midst of the glittering hall, surrounded by oblivious guests, we finally let ourselves connect, fully, lips meeting in a slow, deliberate kiss that carried years of longing, pain, and hope. The kiss deepened, a dance of dominance and surrender, of alpha claiming and omega yielding, not in submission but in trust and love. My heart raced, my body responded with instinctual need, and yet the intimacy was tender, reverent, and filled with a promise of healing. We parted only to breathe, foreheads resting together, our hands still intertwined. "You're really here?" I whispered, awestruck. "After everything, you came back." "I never left," he murmured, his nose brushing mine, his voice thick with emotion. "I was always with you, even when I wasn't by your side." The rest of the evening passed in a blur, yet a blur of clarity. We navigated the party side by side, hands linked, subtle touches and glances signaling to each other that we belonged, that the past no longer held dominion over us. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole, desired, and safe. As the night drew to a close, Dante and I slipped away from the crowded penthouse into the quiet of the terrace. The city lights sparkled beneath us, a testament to life, chance, and second beginnings. I leaned into him, resting my head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, a sound that now felt like home. I never thought I'd get this chance again, I admitted softly, to feel safe, loved, wanted. You've always been worth it, he said, arms wrapping around me, pulling me close. And now, I'll spend every day proving that to you. No more running. No more hiding. Only us. The warmth of his embrace, the security of his presence, and the honesty in his voice were intoxicating. My Omega instincts were finally at peace, harmonizing with my heart, mind, and body. Here, in his arms, I felt loved in a way I had only dreamed of. We stayed like that, wrapped in each other's warmth, watching the city lights flicker below. For the first time in years, the past felt like a distant shadow, and the future stretched before us, bright, uncertain, but ours to face together. Dante had returned, not just as a figure from my past, but as a promise of all the love and happiness we had both been denied for far too long. And in that quiet, intimate moment, I knew one undeniable truth. Some bonds, forged in fire, pain, and longing, could never be broken. They could be tested, shattered, and rebuilt, stronger and more beautiful than ever. And ours, Alpha and Omega, past and present, broken hearts and mended souls, was finally whole. The city sprawled beneath us, lights shimmering like stars, as Dante pressed a gentle kiss to my temple. "This is only the beginning," he whispered, a smile tugging at his lips. "I love you always." "I love you too," I breathed, letting the words settle, letting them heal the wounds that had never truly faded. And for the first time, I believed it. The night carried on, but we no longer feared it. With hands intertwined, hearts aligned, and souls finally reconciled, Dante and I stepped forward into a future we would face together, one of trust, love, and a devotion that no betrayal could ever undo. And as we stood there, under the vast American sky, I realized that love, real love, was never about perfection. It was about forgiveness, courage, and the willingness to fight for the heart that mattered most. And Dante's heart had always been mine. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.